Hi everybody, welcome Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Grade 1 stakes action on the turf is your DRF Bet Saturday race of the day. It's the Man of War at Belmont. We also have 3-year-olds perhaps prepping for the Belmont Stakes. It's the New York Prep for the Belmont, the Grade 3 Peter Pan. We'll also shift out to Southern California. We'll DRF handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and myself for the Grade 3 Lazaro Barrera Stakes, 3-year-old sprinting. JK's play of the day, pinch hitting for JK, Peter Thomas Fornatel. He's got a Belmont late pick 3 as well as his tourney talk segment. And Nicole Russo's pedigree pick's going to focus on Blended Citizen and how he's going to take to the dirt in the Peter Pan. Of course, we've got David Aragona's Timeform US Spotlight, best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Matt Bernier, you have an up-and-coming miler from the Steve Asmussen barn. Met Mile?
We'll find out if B Jersey is Met Mile bound. He most recently ran Sunday afternoon in the Steve Sexton Mile down at Lone Star Park. We're going to take a look at that replay right now. I've got to be honest, this is a horse, Dan, that he really has blossomed since Asmussen's gotten him here in the United States. He was originally over in Dubai for his early 3-year-old, late 2-year-old season. And ever since he's come over here late last year, he's really turned into a bit of a revelation. 99 buyer here. I think there's a case where you could make an argument it might be better off or a little bit higher in that sort of mid 100 range. If he all of a sudden is in that 105 ballpark for buyer, this horse a fringe sort of tender for a race like the Met Mile, should they choose to go there.
He's a son of one of your favorite stallions, Jersey Town, who was a pretty good miler in his own right, and this horse took a pretty nice scalp in Gervin as that horse was making his return off the layoff. Mike Beer, Naira analyst, you got something in New York for the fans.
Yeah, New York last Saturday, Wonderful Light made his third start of the year. So this horse is a 4-year-old colt. He broke his maiden with a 102 buyer in his third career start last year. His only loss since then came when he got wired by Westwood, who was riding a gold rail. Other than that, this horse hasn't lost since breaking his maiden. This is his most recent start last Saturday. What I like about this race is it is his second start off the layoff here. The horse that he's going to run down in this race, 5 Beta Express, is a really fast horse. 5 Beta Express got absolutely loose on the lead in here, 22-4, 45-4. He was not going a fast pace. Didn't matter to Wonderful Light. He came and got this horse in the stretch, runs him right over late and goes clear. And I think this horse might have stakes races in his future, Dan.
You could tell the Wonderful Light really wanted that. He dug down deep and caught that horse on the lead. A real nice performance. I'm going to go back to last month at Keeneland. Bound for Nowhere is 4-for-4 lifetime in North America. After winning his first 2 starts for Wesley Ward, as Wesley's wont to do, he will ship his horses overseas. He ran a pretty good 4th in 1 race at Royal Ascot, then didn't run so well in France and preceded a long layoff, but he has come back firing as a 4-year-old with 2 wins, including this dominant score in the Shakertown Stakes. Now, this was over soft turf. He's sitting on the outside right now, and when Julio Garcia asks him for run at about the 3/16 pole, he is just going to blow right by this exhausted pace setter, and he's going to win this turf sprint by 4 widening lengths with a 107 buyer speed figure. Bound for Nowhere, a son of the Factor, he's bound for Royal Ascot again. He holds entries in both the Group 1 King's Stand at 5 furlongs on June the 19th and the Group 1 Diamond Jubilee at 6 furlongs on June the 23rd. Both of those spots obviously would be tough, but whether he wins or not at Royal Ascot, kind of a moot point. Keep an eye out for Bound for Nowhere a little bit later this year when he returns to North America. He's a turf sprinter to watch for trainer Wesley Ward. Let's get to some handicapping. The Grade 1 Man of War is the DRF Bet Saturday race of the day. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's DRF Bets race of the day, the Grade 1 Man of War. We're going 1 3/8 on the inner turf at Belmont Park. $700,000 is the purse. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded races all weekend long, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. And for free formulator past performances of the Man of War, head on over to the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Matt, we've got a couple of horses coming out of the Elkhorn Stakes at Keeneland, the much improved Speedster, One Go, All Go, and Chad Brown's Call Provision. What's your take on that race?
Well, as a whole, I don't really love the form of it. We're going to go back and take a look. Scooter Dickey, you made mention, he's got one go all go in raging form right now, and he's out on the front end. Just in behind him in the pocket is call provision for Chad. You have to respect Chad anytime he shows up in a race like this. But the thing for me that was disappointing in this race, it's in the post. It's one of my favorites. Is just to the outside. He never goes by. It looks like he's got a full head of steam. Doesn't seem like anyone was doing any real running in this spot. Look, throw out a horse that's in form that's run 4 triple-digit buyers in his last 5 at your own cause. But at the same time, I just kind of feel like the Elkhorn as a whole, I want to fade it.
I kind of agree with you. One Go All Go was able to walk on the lead. He ended up on the vets list after that race with a slight bleeding issue. Maybe I'd give Call Provision a little bit of a mulligan. First time off the layoff, held up behind a slow pace, very rank in the first of 3 turns. He could obviously improve second time out for Chad Brown. But Mike, really the horse to beat, in my opinion, is not the morning line favorite, and that's the number 2, Sadler's Joy, because this horse, he kicks like a mule.
Yeah, I mean, he just runs every time. It doesn't even really matter if he gets the right kind of setup or not. I have his lifetime PPs here. It's only 16 starts. There's not one of those 16 where this horse didn't show up and fire a pretty good shot. Last time it wasn't good enough. I felt like that Pan American didn't really come back for him. I felt like the closers were really up against it in there, and that's obviously always a concern with Sadler's Joy because he will be at the back of the field early. But boy, when he catches even a little bit of pace, this horse will really come running. Let's go 2 back on his PPs right off the layoff here, and the Mac Diarmida. He's way at the back of the pack as you would expect. He is going to come flying through the stretch here and just run this whole field down. This was a really nice performance for this horse right back off the layoff. This is just what he does, guys. I'm going to expect him to show up and run on Saturday just like this. If he catches a little bit of pace, he is not going to be easy to hold off.
But the horse he's going to have to likely run down in the stretch is the morning line favorite. That's High Happy, who got the jump on Sadler's Joy most recently in the Pan Am. He got a little bit of pace help up front, admittedly, but Sadler's Joy couldn't get him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those instances where we're going to take a look at that Pan Am. One Go All Go is out on the front end. High Happy had a beautiful trip throughout. He tips out, takes over this thing, turning for home. And you made mention, Sadler's Joy, he came with an effort. It's just unfortunately he was kind of undone by the lack of pace on the front end. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw something similar here on Saturday afternoon where High Happy, he gets the jump on a horse like Sadler's Joy. Sadler's Joy comes with a good late run, but if the pace doesn't materialize, maybe it's too little too late.
I agree with your pace analysis on this race, Matt, and I also agree with your top selection of High Happy. I think Sadler's Joy might be a better horse than High Happy, but I think High Happy is going to get a better trip than Sadler's Joy just about each and every time. He's going to get the jump on this horse turning into the stretch, and he's done some pretty good things since Todd Pletcher has acquired him. 2 good efforts down at Gulfstream Park. I'm really curious to see how far Pletcher takes High Happy on the graded stakes route down this summer and into Saratoga. High Happy, my top selection, with Matt in the Man of War. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on a 3-year-old that's going to have to do it on dirt in the Peter Pan Stakes. That's Blended Citizen, who of course was also eligible in the Kentucky Derby. Peter Thomas Fornatel's then got all the latest news and notes in the tournament world in his Tournament Talk segment. Then we'll go to break and we'll come back with our analysis of the Peter Pan.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky for Out of the Gate. Of course, so much attention right now on the 3-year-old division and graded stakes action for them this weekend in the Peter Pan Saturday at Belmont. The 1.125 mile race is the local prep for the Belmont Stakes, final leg of the Triple Crown in 4 weeks. The name that immediately jumps out at you, and the horse I want to talk about a little bit, is Blended Citizen. He was entered in the Kentucky Derby as an also eligible, did not draw into the race, is now targeting the Belmont with this race as a prep. Blended Citizen scored his biggest win to date in the Jeff Ruby on Turfway's Poly Track, but I do think he's got a big effort going long on dirt in him. Perhaps didn't show that last time out in the Bluegrass, but he was coming back a little quick in an attempt to pick up those points to make the Derby field, has now had some time off, is training strongly. Blended Citizen is by Proud Citizen, sire of a pair of Kentucky Oaks winners at 1.125 miles. One of them, Proud Spell, went on to win the Alabama at 1.25 miles. Blended Citizen, also a half-brother to Lookin' at Lee, second in last year's Kentucky Derby, and he just won an allowance on Saturday at Churchill, going 1.16 miles, solid field, defeated Sonneteer there. So I'm really looking to see what Blended Citizen does here in the Peter Pan, or if anyone else from the field steps up to stamp themselves as a contender for the Belmont as we move ahead on the Triple Crown Trail. We'll have more on the Peter Pan in a minute here on Out of the Gate, but first, let's get you over to Peter for tournament talk.
Peter Thomas Fornatale back with you on Out of the Gate to do a little tournament talk. Lots of action in the DRF universe this weekend. Most exciting thing, and this might be for the early bird viewers of this show. It could have happened if you're a Saturday morning viewer, but Friday night, something very special happening on live.drf.com and also the DRF Players podcast. We're going to be doing a live video podcast where you have a chance to outplay JK. This is a last chance feeder for Saturday's contest, which will be the last qualifier where you can win into the Santa Anita World Horse Player Tour event, which is, of course, happening last weekend. But rather than put up the money to play in that event, you can win your way in a feeder on Friday night by simply putting up $27 and having a chance to be 1 in 20 who will win into that Saturday contest. And Jonathan will be playing in the event, and should you finish ahead of him, you get your money back. So you've got a way to win, and you've got a way to make it a free roll and a chance to follow along with this fun show we're going to be doing Friday night. Other action this weekend, in addition to the regular last chance on Saturday for the World Horse Players Tour Preakness event. Just a reminder, that contest, all the prize money is added, and we're also going to be filming a television pilot in conjunction with it. We're going to be having the big money last chance on Sunday. For that one, $1,090 to compete. 1 in 5 will win their $5,000 Santa Anita Preakness buy-ins. It's a lot to take in, I know, which is why I wrote a piece about it up on drf.com right now, which you can check out. Players looking to win into Monmouth's Pick Your Prize contest June 2nd, and also the Saratoga Betting Challenge August 9th and 10th. We'll have events for players looking to do those things this weekend as well. You can catch a full rundown in my article on drf.com. Maybe the best way to find it is to go to right tournament site, tournaments.drf.com. Hit the news drop down. I'll keep you apprised of everything going on. And of course, on tournaments.drf.com, you can see a full list of all the games we have available this weekend and beyond. Check it out, tournaments.drf.com. And please try to join us live and play in the Outplay JK contest on Friday night. And if you miss it live, go ahead and check out the archive. You can find it wherever you get the DRF Players podcast, iTunes, SoundCloud, direct link off DRF. I'll send it out on Twitter @LoomsBoldly. Lots of ways to check it out and join in on the fun. That's all the time I have this week. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. Stay tuned for more Out of the Gate.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the local prep for the Belmont Stakes. It's the Grade 3 Peter Pan, a 1-turn and 9-furlong route at beautiful Belmont Park. Carded as race number 10. $350,000 is the purse. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We are expecting the number 5 Diamond King to scratch out of the Peter Pan and run in next week's Preakness. Mike Beer, the morning line favorite, the #1 core beliefs, was just in a little bit too tough last time.
Yeah, he might have found the Santa Anita Derby against Justify and Boldoro a little bit too tough for him. He managed third in that race with a 92 buyer, but he is a horse who's really improved since they stretched him out in distance. His pedigree suggests he wants to go longer, and he did improve when they stretched him out. Here's his third career start as he breaks his maiden first time around 2 turns. He got a nice trip in this race, right up on the lead. You can see Longden, who was the actual post-time favorite, sort of ranged up alongside him. I liked the way the core beliefs just sort of kept finding, turned that horse away in the stretch. He's clear at the end. He enters the Peter Pan with 2 of the faster buyer speed figures in the field, and he's got speed down on the rail. All of those things are good. I think he's okay. I don't love him in this race, but I sort of understand why he's the favorite.
With the scratch of Diamond King, there's a good chance he could be loose on the lead in the early portion of the Peter Pan. Matt, one of your favorite 3-year-olds is Hofburg, and Just Whistle made Hofburg work a little bit in his first 2-turn start, and then this horse came back and he whistled at Keeneland.
Very breaking his maiden at Keeneland. We're going to take a look at that replay right now. This was back on the 14th. He's a little bit hard-ridden into the run, far turn, but finally once he gets stride and really hits his best gear, you see him level off nicely. I like the way that he finished. I understand the horse that runs second probably did a little bit more work in this race than the first did, but Just Whistle, Michael Metz has always talked about it like he could be a good one. I don't think distance is going to be any sort of an issue, and I wonder if you get an instance like this, maybe it's the Belmont, and if it's not the Belmont, maybe it's some of the other big 3-year-old races over the summer.
Yeah, I totally agree with Matt's take on this race. I like Just Whistle. I like the way that he's improved in his 2 starts this year. And to me, more than anything else, the reason I like him in this race is just because he just seems like a horse who is sure to really like the 9 furlongs this race. I mean, I think this horse just wants to go all day. And I have some distance concerns about the other horses in this field.
One of the horses that you have distance concerns with is my top pick. That's the #6, High North. But you can't stop Brad Cox right now. He won the Kentucky Oaks last week with Monomoy Girl. He's winning everything in sight, and he made the right move last time out with High North in the Northern Spur Stakes. A, giving this horse a little bit of class relief. B, equipping him with blinkers. Let's watch the stretch run of the Northern Spur, and we're going to see this horse was a lot closer to the pace. He just takes the lead turning into the stretch. He's a little bit green here. When Florent Giroux pops him left-handed, he's going to duck out a little bit, but he certainly rights himself. I can see what Mike's saying. I think Mike wanted to see him finish a little bit stronger here in the last 70 yards. But High North has done some really good things in his career against some tough competition, and the 1 1/8 is stretching it, but there's not a lot of speed in this race. And I think with his new blinkers, he can get into the race a lot quicker. And he does have Brad Cox in his corner. High North's going to be my top selection in the Peter Pan. We'll stick with 3-year-olds, but we'll move out to Southern California for the Lazaro Barrera for sprinters. Let's take a look at the field for 3-year-olds sprinting in Southern California in the Grade 3 Lazaro Barrera Stakes. We're going 7 furlongs for $100,000. It's carded as race number 5, and it kicks off at pick 5 at the Great Race Place. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We cover every horse in every graded stake in great detail. Mike, the #1 Kanthaka, so good sprinting 3 starts back. Jerry Hollendorfer caught a little Derby fever after that race.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you have a good 3-year-old. I guess it's easy to catch Derby fever. I understand why they stretched him out. They probably went 1 race too many with him going long in the bluegrass, but that's all right. He's a good horse. You want to give him a chance to do it. This is the right cutback for this horse. We'll go back to his last time he was sprinting in the San Vicente. And listen, I know this race set up really well for this horse. He gets a 99 buyer for it, but it's not like this horse just sat it out and then picked up a bunch of tired horses in the stretch. He made his run around the turn to get into this race, and then he just powered away from this field. This was a really nice performance. I think this horse is just made for 7 furlongs, and I love them cutting him back in this race.
Matt, the #7, beautiful shot, did some really good things as a sprinter as a 2-year-old. Then the DeZormo's got a case of Derby fever.
Yeah, and so far it hasn't gone well for him as a 3-year-old. The Gotham was basically a non-effort. He did have a little bit of trouble going into the far turn. Then the Arkansas Derby, he didn't pick his feet up, but he was 90-1. If you go back to the Speakeasy, this was his second lifetime start last year as a 2-year-old. I got to be honest, if he runs this race, I think he's got a puncher's chance in here. You see him coming on the far outside. Unfortunately, the ill-fated Marino is on the front end right now. He did all the dirty work, but beautiful shot's a horse that on his best day has a nice sort of leash to him. He might be a poor man's Kanthaka in a spot like this, but he might be 6 or 7 times the price. And I know if he shows up with his best effort, he's got a puncher's chance. We'll find out if we get his best on Saturday.
My thoughts on this race is that sometimes it's difficult to recover from the fever. And I know that the number 3 McHale, one of 2 in here for Bob Baffert, is a pure sprinter, and Bob is not thinking about stretching him out anytime soon. This horse has taken a ton of money in both lifetime starts. Solid debut performance. And then we're going to take a look at his second race, a race in which he was beaten by Zulfikar, who's also in this spot. He's down on the inside, McHale, and he did some work in the early portion of this race. Zulfikar comes to him on the outside. I like the fact that McHale is fighting. He has a tendency to lean in down towards the inside despite getting hit with the left-handed whip. But remember, this is just start number 2 for McHale, and I do like the way he is digging in here to be second best to Zulfikar. He's going to get the jump on Matt's pick. He's going to get the jump on Mike's pick. I think he's in front turning into the stretch, and the way he's been betting both starts, somebody likes this horse. I think McHale's going to end up being a pretty good sprinter, and he'll be my top selection in the Lazaro Barrera Stakes. Peter Thomas Fornatel pinch hits for JK in the Play of the Day segment. He's got a Belmont pick 3, and David Aragona's Timeform US Spotlight focuses on the Run Happy Stakes at Belmont Park. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hello and welcome to JK's Play of the Day, not JK, PTF, here in JK's seat, sitting in to talk about this late pick 3 at Belmont on Saturday. We have a trio of graded stakes races, and it's worth taking a shot. We're going to start off in race 9, the Bogey, and going to use 3 horses here, and then we'll come back and press a couple of them. First one we're going to use is number 1, My Impression, who projects to get a nice trip on the inside under Jose Ortiz. Definitely fits on figures and form with these. Chad Brown has 2 in here. We'll use them both. Number 2 is the post-time favorite, Inflexibility, improving, also form and figures that make her a major threat in this group. We're also going to use this first-time North America horse, number 6, A Raving Beauty. The European form is second tier, I'd say, despite the grade 1 placing or group 1 placing from Italy. But we've seen Chad Brown take horses from the French provinces and turn them into graded stakes runners here in the United States. So with that in mind, you can ignore that one at your own peril. We'll come back in our picks and press the 2 Brown runners. Then let's move on to race number 10, the Peter Pan, the form of the Santa Anita Derby, working out really well with the winner Justify obviously winning the Kentucky Derby, but also Instilled Regard, who was 4th there, troubled 4th in the Derby as well. This is the horse that ran 3rd in there, improving for Peter Urton and Tyler Bays. The other one I want in here is number 6, High North, for Brad Cox and Flo Giroux. Perked up big time last time out with the blinkers. Appears to be working well since and projects a good trip, maybe in the second flight of runners here. We'll go ahead and press number 1, Core Belief, because he'll be a bit shorter, and I like him better in the Peter Pan. Race 11, the Man O' War. We return to the turf. Top selection is number 7, High Happy, who showed good finish in the last 2 races and has the tactical speed to be in a great position when they turn for home in a race where a lot of the main contenders appear to be deep closers. I'm going to go ahead and press that one as well because of that possible pace edge. Also going to use class horse number 2, Sadler's Joy. Last time wasn't great, but he just has too many runs to go ahead and let him beat me. Number 6, Call Provision, is my preferred of the 3 Chad Browns. Another deep closer, but also a strong finisher and should be a square price. I think the value's created in here by being against number 7, One Go All Go. Last 2 races might have been flattered. 2 back, that Gulfstream turf dirt hybrid often favors speed, and last time rode a favorable inside rail. I thought on Keeneland's turf that day. The press in here, just number 7, High Happy. So we'll construct our tickets to press those horses that we want to hit the extra time, and also have a wide net where we try to catch everything. That's my thought in this graded stakes pick 3. And that's it for JK's Play of the Day. Pete Fornatel sitting in for Jonathan Kinchin. Stay tuned for more Out of the Gate.
Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona for this week's Timeform US Spotlight. There's a great card at Belmont on Saturday. It's topped by the Grade 2 Peter Pan, a prep for the Belmont Stakes later in June, and also the Grade 1 Man of War, which is another top turf race for older horses. 5 stakes in total on that card. The late pick 4 starts off with an interesting sprint race, though. It drew a smaller field, but some contenders that I think are really standouts in this race. Let's take a look at the 8th race at Belmont. It's the Run Happy Stakes, going 6 furlongs for older horses. You see in the field, you've got top sprinters, a couple coming out of the Grade 1 Carter, some up-and-comers like Westwood. Let's start by taking a look at the Timeform US pace projector. And you'll see that the number 6 horse, Green Grotto, who seems to be sent in all of his races. He's a very fast horse. He's kind of out of form lately, but he typically uses his early speed even now. So he figures to be sent from the outside post position. We'll see how long he can hold on to the lead for, though. Some speed to his inside as well. Westwood, the number 2 horse, he's a front runner that typically likes to go out towards the lead. The number 1 horse, Skylar Scramjet, a stalker, as well as the number 3 horse, King Crans. So it seems like the early pace of this race will at least be honest, while maybe not, too fast. They should be moving up front. Let's start by taking a look at the morning line favorite, the number 1 horse, Skylar Scramjet. He's turned into a top sprinter for Michelle Nevin. He's just run a series of excellent speed figures for her. He disappointed a little bit in the Carter time. He probably didn't quite get the 7 furlongs that day as he faded in the late stages. Obviously, it's no disgrace losing to a mule who just ran off the screen that day. But Skylar Scramjet, nevertheless, kept his good form. Now he's getting back to 6 furlongs, which is probably his best distance. I feel like he's the one that could work out the right stalking trip because he's not really the type of horse that needs to be used to be on the lead while he does possess that tactical speed. So you can kind of slot him behind Westwood and Green Grotto and probably work out the right. In my opinion, he's a deserving favorite and much the horse to beat in this race, though we'll look at a few others. The number 2 horse, Westwood, drawn right to his outside, he's the one that could be most by the presence of Green Grotto, because it does seem like Westwood runs his best race when he is able to get the early lead. Last time they tried Stakes Company for the first time at Keeneland in the Commonwealth, and he ran fine that day. I mean, he got to the early lead. The pace was moderate. It wasn't too fast. But they just finished all together. A bunch of horses hit the line at the same time in that race. Now, I guess you could say saw horses like Warriors Club and Limousine Liberal come back to validate that race by running well on Derby Day and the Churchill Downs Handicap. But that race on Derby Day was such a weird race because they had that rain, and Limousine Liberal's horse that obviously loved the mud. So I don't want too much stock in the Churchill Downs Handicap kind of valid Commonwealth, but it did seem like a race than the race that Skylar Scramjet is coming. I was just a little disappointed by Westwood that day, kind of at the end of that race, and I was hoping he would show a bit more trying to hold on to the lead in the late stage. He, too, is getting back to 6 furlongs. That helps him as well, but I thought he was somewhat vulnerable at a short price, and Skylar Scramjet was the more reliable of the 2 favorites. King Crans is one that's been moving back up into Stakes Company, trying to challenge the favorites. I'm against this horse. He'll probably take a little bit of money because he's undefeated since being transferred to the Rudy Rodriguez barn, but he's just faced much weaker company in his 2 starts. You look at the race ratings and Timeform USPPs for those last 2 races, they're just lower than the race ratings for the races that Skylar Scramjet and Westwood are coming out of. I feel like this is a big step up in class, and he's a horse that's going to need to improve. One other horse that should not be ignored in this race is Great Stuff, the number 4 horse. He's probably around the 3rd or 4th choice in this race. They tried him on turf last time. Just throw that race out. He's not a turf horse. Going back to his prior races at Aqueduct this winter, he ran just as well as Skylar Scramjet in a few of those races. It's hard for a deep closer like Great Stuff to overcome races with really large fields, which you saw on the Tom Fool as well as the Carter. He needs to get a little bit lucky to kind of pick his way through the pack. In a shorter field like this, I think he's going to be able to make that closing move that was so effective back in the Toboggan when he was able to take advantage of a fast pace that also was set by Green Grotto and close that field down. He's got races in him that make him very competitive in here, and I think he's going to get the right kind of pace set up in this race. So at around the 3rd choice at 7-2 or 4-1, I think Great Stuff is the right horse to bet in this race. But in multi-race wagers, I'm really pushing Great Stuff and Skylar Scramjet. In the 8th race at Belmont on Saturday, it's the Run Happy Stakes. Now let's send it back to Dan in the studio.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Time for our best bets segment. Matt, you've got one of the 4 graded stakes races at Belmont circled, and you got a true speedster.
Yeah, I think there's a scenario in the Bogey, team of teams going out for Jimmy Jerkins. I think she should be controlling speed in this race. And We've seen what she's capable of doing when she's out there by herself. You just got to go 2 starts back at Gulfstream. We're going to take a look at that stretch run right now. This is in the Sanibel Island, I believe. She's out there and just winging it, loving life on the front end. And it's actually the Sand Springs. But she's going to come home in 22-1. And her most recent run in the Honey Fox, I think this was just a fine effort as well, because it just happened to be a day that lull freaked out for Christophe Clement. If this horse, Team of Teams, as Jimmy Jerkins has said, she's a little bit quirky to ride. If she's allowed to get out there and dictate things on the front end, I think she's got a big chance to wire this field at what should be a decent number.
Mike and I talked about it in the stakes preview. It's fun to go over Timeform US past performances. Red pace fractions, not so good for Team of Teams. Blue, she loves it, and she might have a nice easy lead in the Bogey. Mike Beer, Naira analyst, you've got something on the Belmont undercard.
Yeah, race number 4 is for New York bred maiden, sprinting 6 furlongs on the turf. I'm going to try Skatsuku in this race. Second-time starter for Linda Rice. Made her debut at Aqueduct back in April. It was just one of those races that had a really slow pace. As a first-time starter, he was way back off of it. We'll pick up the replay as they turn into the stretch, and he's just trying to make up ground into a slow pace in here. I like the way he finishes. The horse who runs second is also back in this race. That horse was the favorite on this day, let me tell you. I sort of feel like the Skatsuku was probably the one that you want out of this race this time, though. This horse really trying to make up late ground in here, and he will actually just miss running down, let me tell you, for second in this spot. If this horse can take a small step forward on Saturday, I think he can get it done.
I'm going to go to Parks, race number 6, the number 4, Release the Glacken, who started her career up in Woodbine. And there was just one problem. She didn't like synthetic, and she didn't like turf. So she eventually came down to North America, and all she's done is win 4 of 6 starts on the dirt. Last time out, she was in for 12-5, and we're going to pick that race up right now. She went right to the front, and she's just going to find 2 horses that are better than she is. The winner, Little Miss Business, in her prior start was 5-2 and a non-winners of 2 other than optional claimer, taking a huge drop in class. The runner-up in this race came back to actually step up in class and win for a $16,000 tag with a 66 buyer speed figure. Release the Glacken was just simply in too tough. She now drops from 12-5 into 10, and she's going to have to face a horse that was recently claimed by Jamie Ness, and we know Jamie improves those horses by leaps and bounds. But the price will be right for Release the Glacken because of the Ness claim and because jockey LG Villanueva is 1 for his last 79. Not a good number. But he didn't ride this horse bad at all last time out, and I think he's going to give this horse a good stalking trip. Release the Glacken, my top pick and my best bet on Saturday at Parks. We thank you so much for watching this week, and we urge you to keep following DRF on social media. For the latest DRF TV offerings, follow at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes, especially on the upcoming Preakness from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form, follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.